Hi, I'm Rachel. That's my cat Missy in the background. We'll see how long she stays there. I don't think it'll be that long. I also seem to be near the end of my battery right now, so maybe that's more incentive to make this a quick video. Anyway, this is a Friday Reads video. I did not intend for it to be a Friday Reads video. I intended to make this video earlier in the week, but it took me longer to read the book that I was reading than I hoped it would, and I'm all angsty about it still, but it's over now. I've finished it out. And it is this one called Atlas of Unknowns by Tania James. A couple of months ago, I had it win my page 112 tag competition between it and another book. And now that it's due back at the library, I had to actually read it. And it was all right. It was interesting. It's a book that takes place in India, but with a Christian family, which I think is something I've never read about before. And I definitely think that added a unique flavor, and they were flawed characters, and it wasn't so much focused on some stuff that sometimes I see in other novels, I think particularly the Hindu novels about that are so wrapped up in arranged marriages and all of that. There are attempts at arranging marriages, but a lot of the issues that these characters are facing go beyond that as well. In the present day of this story, there are these two sisters, Lino and Anju. And Anju is a student who wants to study in America, and there's this philanthropist and teacher from an American school who wants to give a scholarship to an Indian child. And Anju ends up stealing her sister's artwork to put her ahead of the pack. And so she gets the scholarship, but then she tells what she did to a classmate, and so she ends up losing it. And because of this scandal, she decides to run away, but she ends up meeting this woman who she thinks is just a convenience or you know, a coincidence of just some random other Indian woman in New York. But it turns out this woman was tracking her because she knew Andrew's mother. They were friends and in a theater troupe once upon a time. But Andrew doesn't know that, and Andrew's mother, in fact, has been dead for several years, and in the backstory we get more into how she died and how she lived and her relationship with this woman and how she got involved with her husband, who is this struggling man who seems to be working class, and for a while he has to be a chauffeur to a man who actually was going to marry the mother figure. The mother ended up being higher class than the father, and that turned out to be a bigger deal than the father wanted to admit. So there's a lot of character drama going on in this. I think it was more unfocused than I might have liked. I guess I was interested when I was reading it, but otherwise I didn't really think about it much. There were a few good turns of phrase, one near the end, so at least I remember it. I just like this line. It's at the beach, and it says, "The tide slowly sticks out its tongue at the coast, then politely recedes, leaving opalescent shards of shell in its wake." So yeah, it was a nice little jaunt into this book. Nothing outstanding, but still nice. So I finished a couple of my June books since the last time I updated. One of them was When They Come For Us We'll Be Gone. It's the epic struggle to save Soviet Jewry by Gal Beckerman. I had to return it to the library, and I ended up reviewing it along with two other books. They were all contenders for the Sammy Wurr Prize in 2012. It's awarded to an emerging Jewish author in either fiction or nonfiction, and I'm pretty proud of that video. I'll link it down below, and it was a good book. It was my favorite of the books and the winner of the prize. The next and final book that I, finished in July, started in June, is this book. It's called Moving Kings by Joshua Cohen, and it was part of my Jewish fiction published in 2017 list. It's a story about a couple of Israeli guys who recently out of the army come to New York, and they work under the table at one of their cousins' moving companies, and it's supposed to draw some parallels between the occupation and evicting people who can't make their rent in impoverished areas. And I didn't like it very much. This is kind of dude bro lit. I actually at first was starting to think, you know, he's so obviously anti-sentimental and anti-interior emotional monologue anything, that he might be a good fit for me, because sometimes some of the people in my group, well, especially the guy in my writing group, say that I describe emotions of characters too much, and this book did make me think that maybe I should get out of their heads a little more. But this is ridiculous. This is just lurid descriptions of the highway, and all of the characters were so undefined. I really thought most of them were, I called them archetypes of asshole in my review. I thought that none of them were that believable. I thought that the conceit didn't really work for that well, because you didn't get enough into any situations anyway. You don't meet any Palestinian characters. You barely meet any lower class people being evicted from their homes. The only people who feel like characters at all are the two boys from the army. So I thought this is just the type of example of dude bro lit that well, I don't think any dude bro lit necessarily works for me, and this is a testament to why. I just found it rather annoying. Parts of it were well written, I guess, but overall it was not cohesive or memorable at all, and I do not think it succeeded on what it was trying to do, what it was blaring out at us. This is a comparison between two major world events. I am so smart for thinking about this. I'm starting to be mean to the author. I'd like to show you his picture too. He looks a lot like Dane DeHaan, doesn't he? And look at like how artfully his shirt shows off just enough of his chest hair. This seems very dude bro-y to me. I shouldn't make these sorts of snarky personal comments, I think. I don't think I have the clout for that, and I think sometimes Dane DeHaan actually looks kind of nice, but that picture just looked the part, if you didn't know already that this was a dude bro novel. So anyway, I talked about this and also the Soviet Jewry nonfiction book in my June 2018 literary wrap-up. I put it on my blog every month. I put snippets from all the books that I've read, including 4 other books that I've read in June. And I have a book picture spotlight, and I put in my TBR and a meme and one of my booktube videos. It's a lot of fun, so I'll put that link down below. Next on my list, I have this book that I need to read for my book club. It's a memoir called I'm Supposed to Protect You from All This by Nadja Spiegelman. She is the daughter of Art Spiegelman, who wrote the graphic novel Mouse. It's a very infamous Holocaust graphic novel about Art Spiegelman's father, who was in the camps, and it portrays the mice as Jews and the cats as Nazis. But this memoir, I believe, isn't about her father and grandfather, but about her mother and grandmother. So I'll read from the flap. For a long time, Nadja Spiegelman believed her mother was a fairy. More than her famous father, mouse creator Art Spiegelman, and even more than most mothers, hers, French-born New Yorker and director Francois Mouly, exerted a force over a reality that was both dazzling and daunting. As Nadja's body changed and began to whisper to the adults around me in a language I did not understand, their relationship grew tense. Unwittingly, they were replaying a drama from her mother's past, a drama Nadja sensed but never heard. Then, after college, her mother suddenly opened up to her. Francois recounted her turbulent adolescence caught between a volatile mother and a playboy father, one of plastic surgeons in France. The weight of the difficult stories she told her daughter shifted the balance between them. It had taken an ocean to allow Francois the distance to become her own person. At about the same age, Nadja made the journey in reverse, moving to Paris, determined to get to know the woman her mother had fled. Her grandmother's memories contradicted her mother's at nearly every turn, but beneath them lay a difficult history of her own. Nadja emerged with a deeper understanding of how each generation reshapes the past in order to forge ahead, the narrative's both weapon and defense, eternally in conflict. Every reader will recognize herself and her family in this gorgeous and heartbreaking memoir that helps us to see why sometimes those who love us best hurt us the most. Yeah, I mean, immediately I think about my own mother and my own grandmother, and just how we tell ourselves different stories about our upbringing. That on its own is fascinating, let alone that there's intercontinental drama and fleeing from one another, and and of course Nadja's father's influence. I don't know if her mother was in the Holocaust or not. I really don't know much about the family, and I'm really intrigued to learn more, and I really love memoirs, so hopefully this will be a good, intriguing read. And finally, I need to finish this book. This was the winner of my Try a Story tag, my last rambling video that I did, where I pitched Jen Campbell's book, The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night, against 4 other short story collections. And I really enjoyed Jen Campbell's first story in this, and I'm not just saying that because of her fame on BookTube. And so yeah, I want to read some short story collections because I write short stories and I want to, you know, support the genre, so I got to get into this one, and I have a few more that I want to read this month as well. So that about covers it for me.